Hey everyone, Earthy Wise Woman here, and in my neck of the woods, it is evening time, so I say good evening to everyone. This evening, I want to speak about voodoo dolls, spirit dolls, and puppets. How to use them, how to make them, where to get them, what's the folklore behind it, all things spirit dolls. So here we go. First of all, everyone starts off the whole voodoo doll thing with "Don't believe Hollywood." Okay, I'm gonna kind of start it off with that, and when I say kinda is this to some aspects of the whole concept with cursing a person with a doll is true. There, I said it. It is true. Okay, is it 100% true? Depends on how you go about it. I'm not going to give you details on how to curse a person with a doll because I realize that there are a lot of reckless people who are out there in the internet world who, instead of doing their research and instead of looking at the pros and cons and the good and the bad, will just say, hey, I hate that neighbor across the street and I'm going to hex him, and I watched that video and I know what to do. And be damned with the ramifications of why we just don't do that. So I'm not going to give you that information. Instead, I'm going to lead you through the whole concept of the whole situation of the doll. Now, let's go with a little bit of folklore. First of all, um, from my research, practically every tradition from Native American to the African, um, of course, Spanish, excuse me, um, European. I'm trying to think of everybody. In other words, I've not found any tradition that does not include some form of a spirit doll, voodoo doll, or a puppet. Almost every tradition, at some form or another, has them. Okay? And also with my research, because I was raised by a maternal grandmother who is a voodoo practitioner and a priestess, and my paternal grandmother, who was Wiccan and a priestess also. Both of them approached. One approached the spirit doll, which would be our puppet, which would be my paternal grandmother, and the other the voodoo doll, which would be my maternal grandmother. Anyway, both of them, the approach was the same. And that is, what is the form of magic? First of all, the doll is a form of earth magic, but there's a specific sort of earth magic this is. It's called sympathetic magic. And I want to repeat that. You guys can take notes. I would strongly suggest it. Sympathetic magic. Now, um, what is sympathetic magic? Sympathetic magic is a form of acting out something that you want to happen in the real world or in the mundane world. So let's say you were a hunter and tomorrow you're going on a big game hunt and you needed to make sure that you killed a buffalo for your family. Because if you didn't make that kill, the winter time would come and your family would starve. So you really needed to make sure that that hunt is successful. So what would you do? Well, sympathetic magic is you would actually act out going hunting for the buffalo. You would see yourself or physically act out, killing the buffalo, and thus proclaiming, you have killed the buffalo. And as you know, in many traditions, in many cultures, you see people acting it out. They do a dance, they show themselves killing the animal that they're out to kill, and then the next day they go on the actual hunting uh, expedition and they kill the animal. They indeed do it. But what they did before was sympathetic magic. They acted out killing the animal and thus put the magic out there, and they do indeed kill the magic. I mean, kill the animal. Whew, they don't kill the magic. Okay. Now, that being said, how does that have to do with the doll? Well, the doll is a form of sympathetic magic. Let's say you portray the doll as being you. Okay, so as you notice, I'm not holding any dolls. Let me pause this and get a doll for you real quick. Okay, I'm back. And here's a doll. Oops, I'm sorry. Trying to be careful. It's not crazy. It's not always smart. This doll I crafted myself. Now, I'll explain this doll for you. You can hear bells. The bells is to call the spirits in. You don't have to put bells on a doll. I chose to on this one. Also, I crafted this doll for money. You see a coin there. And the shell is for earth, representation, and water, and Oya. And for wisdom, I've got the serpent and the owl. And the rest is for, well, the butterfly for metamorphosis and for new beginnings. A lot of symbolism on this doll, quite a bit of symbolism. Also, uh, for luck, I got a dice there, as you can see. There is no right way and there's no wrong way to make a doll. It's all for the purpose of what you're going to use it for, or the many purposes of how you want to use the doll for. Now, for this purpose, this doll is going to be me. Hello, Earthy Wise Woman. Okay, this is me. So, what I need, let's say I want to draw money to me, and this doll represents me. I might take a dollar bill or a coin, as I've already done, and I put it to that, and I might touch it. Money, money, come to me. Money, money, set me free. I draw this money into me as my will, so mote it be. So that was just a little example of a spell I might cast. I am not suggesting that you cast that spell. Would it work if you did? Yeah, it probably would if you have the right intention and the proper energy. Absolutely would work. But this is the doll I would use. So on this, I would, let's say on the day I go to Vegas, I decided to take this doll and put it on my altar. And on this, I write money. But I put this up as me. This is me, rich. And I put that energy towards that. Okay, this is me projecting this doll out into the universe to draw money into me. Okay, but I can also use this doll to represent someone else. Let's say a cousin or a brother said to me, "Hey, I'm going to be going to Vegas. Can you please cast a spell for me to get money?" Now, I can cast a spell without a doll, but I might want to focus as a focal point. And I will say, this is my brother Lester. Lester is going to get rich. Lester is going to be very rich. I call upon the energy of the ancestors, and I draw in the luck of our family to make Lester rich. He will be fortunate in Vegas. He will get money. Now, the reason I know I can call upon the ancestors with this particular doll for Lester or anyone is because look at the doll. You see the skulls on this doll? Sure you do. Well, in Voodoo and Santeria, the skulls represent the ancestors. So not only am I drawing upon the energy of myself, I am drawing upon the energy of my family to indeed bring in the energy of what I need and want. So I'm going to go ahead real quick because this doll is very powerful. And I really probably should have used a simpler doll as an example because this one is really, really powerful. And by the way, I do want to tell people this particular doll, I'm actually selling it on my website on Etsy, which is a, my shop, which is Etsy. Ooh, let me just zip this up, which is called Earthy Wise Woman. So I'm gonna put this up, put that aside. Powerful doll, very powerful. Now, that being said, a doll can represent you as a person, so you can say, I need to be healed. I can wrap things around my doll to draw in healing or certain powers, or I can unwrap it and take things away that are not so positive. I'm going to use something a little bit quicker and easier. Like this little poppet. I crafted this poppet too. It's a poppet. It's a simple poppet. Now, a lot of people believe that a person only needs one doll to do magic, and that's true. You do only need only one doll to do all the things you need to do. And as you grow as a practitioner, so does the energy of your doll. As you grow, it grows. And I've had a lot of people say, well, how do I start it? What do I do to start that doll up? What do I do to work it? Well, one of the things I do personally is when I craft a doll, I leave it on my altar for all the moon cycles. For the full moon to draw in energy, which is the highest part. For the waning moon, excuse me, because I'm about to cough, to kind of release negative energy. And for the new moon, which to me, somewhat of a balancing of both, of chaotic energy. But I do believe in leaving it on my altar. I do believe in running it through the smoke of my altar, which would be running it through incense. Now, you do not have to run it through incense for all phases of the moon. I choose to. I run it through incense for the full moon cycle, the waning moon cycle, and the new moon cycle. I believe in running it through all of it. And the reason is this, I really truly believe in, I don't like the word sanctifying, but purifying my dolls because it is for my sacred use. And I do not share my doll with anyone, okay? So the examples I gave you, these are for dolls that, these are not my dolls that I'm showing you. These are dolls I have made for other people, or I have made for to be sold. Now, I have not sold these dolls yet. And the reason why I don't feel any shame in touching them is because I made them, I touched them, I put energy into them. So that's why I don't mind touching. Now I keep saying these, and you're like, well, there's only two dolls. No, there's three. Now you see, this doll is sealed. I literally sealed the doll. And why? Because the person who buys this doll, who it's meant to be for, will unseal it, and they will be the one activating it, not me. Okay, so I'm gonna put that aside. And actually, I should put the other one in a sealing bag, but it's too big, so that's why it's not. Now, I'm diverging off the subject of dolls. You have watched a lot of movies. You've watched, you've heard programs on what you can do and why we use needles. And I'm going to explain the needles. Do you stick needles in dolls? Does it work? Yeah, it does work. And yes, I do. But I need to explain to you that every needle has a purpose. So let's say I desire love to come into me. If I want love or passion, I should say passion, I would stick passion, red needles into my doll. Red needles, red needles. Or I could make that doll represent the person I want the passion from. Like this would instantly, I should put this out. It's a poppet. But all of a sudden, I want this poppet to represent me. And I really, really, really want passion. I keep stressing passion. So I would stick a red needle in the heart of this person. Or, let's be honest, I'm talking passion. I would stick red needles in the woo woo area of this doll. Because that's all I really want is some good loving. Okay, red needle in that area. But let's say I really do want love, a good love, pure friendship. I would take a pink needle or a white needle and I would stick it in the heart because that's the area that I need. I want love. Okay. Now let's say I'm broke. I need some money. Okay. I would take a green needle and I may stick it in the palm in order for money to come into my hand. If I say needed spiritual enlightenment or I needed to have my third eye turned on or I needed to be more empathic about things that are happening in my life and world, I would stick a purple needle in the head of this. Okay, now let's keep going. Let's say I'm sick, I'm coughing, I'm not feeling well. I would actually lay this doll down like a bed on my altar and I would stick a blue needle in the area of my body that is ailing me. Okay? Now, let's say I am mad at someone. I don't want to say mad. Let's say someone has harmed or hurt me or my family, and I know exactly who this person is. This doll can then be a hexing doll, and in which case I would take a black needle and I would stick it into the doll. Now, I'm going to take this very carefully. I need you to hear this. I mean, it's so prevalent. I'm dropping everything to say this. Once you stick a black needle into a doll, do not touch the needle. Notice how I said that all blah, 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 blah. Right. Do not touch the needle if you stick a black needle into the doll. And I would tell you not to do that because it will come back on you. All right? You will actually cause it to come back on you. So, if you stick a black needle into a doll, until you see yourself that that has happened and you know what you wanted done to be done, don't touch the doll. Leave it alone. And actually, this is me personally. If I use a doll as a hexing doll, I usually get rid of the doll. I usually send it to the person I hex. And yes, I do. I will send it to the person I hex, and I will tell them how to lift the hex off of them. Now, that's a whole different story, and you're like, well, why would you tell them to lift how to lift the hex if you're hexing them? Because if they've done some harm to me, and there is a way for them to make it right and correct what they have done to me and change what they have done to me, I will tell them what to do to lift the hex. Because if they do what they're supposed to do and make it right, the hex will be lifted from them. If they do what I tell them to do. All right. So, okay, that's leads into another point. I will go back to that. Now, currently, a lot of times you guys, I know how you guys work. You guys go on the internet because the internet is free information. It's all there. Wow, wow, wow. This is the perfect place to go. I can go on the internet and get all my information. The problem is you can't always verify that information. And it's always best to just have a hard copy of what you have. Get it from people who know, who do, who are practitioners. Now, the first person I ever read on when it came to any forms of puppets or spirit dolls was this guy. And this was when I read this book initially when I was about, I would say 13. So this one. And I would strongly suggest everybody to get this book. Um, Raymond Buckland was one of the greatest writers when it came to witchcraft. And he is credited for bringing witchcraft to the United States. He is British. He was British. He has crossed over since then. But this book should be in every practitioner's collection, I believe. They used to call it affectionately Uncle Bucky's Big Blue Book. Now, in this book, he does speak about poppets. He tells you how to make them, how to activate them, and what they're good for. He also has a few other books on the subject of poppets and color magic. I strongly suggest you buy books from him, from this particular author, but this one particular book should be a cornerstone in your collection. Notice I keep holding it up so you can write out the information. Okay, yes, you can probably get it on Amazon or eBay or something like that, but it is a should have book. So I'm going to put this book down now. Okay, so he takes poppets from a Wiccan perspective, but you will find that as you read books, the Wiccan perspective of doll crafting and the voodoo perspective of doll crafting are pretty much alike. You can use anything to make a doll. You can use popsicle sticks. You can use little twisties. You can use cloth. You can use cotton. I would suggest natural materials. You can use wood out in the forest. You can use leaves. I've seen that done as well. And I've seen some more sinister things. I don't deny that. I've seen practitioners use chicken bones to craft a doll with as the frame. It can be done. All right. And a few other things. Now, I've also seen a rabbit's foot used in making a puppet for luck. Another book that I strongly recommend, as in she, I do not personally, I do not personally know her. I know of her. I have seen her in a few talks. You know, I think she is an amazing practitioner and an amazing author. And her first book was self-published, and after that, she just this one, she this one. But no, I love Denise Alvarado is an extremely talented writer, talented practitioner, and I've read a lot of books on voodoo dolls and such. Her book is one of the best I've ever read. Highly recommended. I suggest that all practitioners have her book and use it. Okay? She has some very amazing spells in there, very approachable spells. Um, I would strongly recommend the book. Okay, so I'm holding it up for a while so you guys can get a good look at it. I'm going to put it down. Now, the next book I'm going to show real quick, and I'm going to go in and talk some more, but this one is extremely old school voodoo. When I mean old school, I shouldn't even say that old because it's not really Haitian voodoo. This is really folk magic and New Orleans voodoo. And it's this one. As you can see, I'm going to get it closer up because there is no binder. And really, this is not a book so much, it is a collaboration from many, many practitioners on the craft of voodoo. Many uh, practitioners are in this book. So it's a collaboration book. And in fact, my grandmother is in here with several of her spells is in this book, which I'm very proud to say. So I'm going to put this down. Hope you got a good look at that one. I'm going to put it up a little closer so you have an opportunity to copy it. And yes, this book can be found on Amazon and wherever books like that are sold. Okay, so onward, as I was saying, in my opinion, the best practitioners when it comes to spirit dolls are our children, because a child's teddy bear or a child's action figure or Barbie doll or whatever their favorite action figure toy is a form of a spirit doll and a voodoo doll. Because I say this because children talk to their dolls, they play with them, they do sympathetic magic with them all the time. When a child is flying from a building or she's driving in her Barbie car and going shopping, that is a form of sympathetic magic. And in that moment, that child visualized themselves as being, for some, a mighty superhero, or saving the world, or going on the most amazing shopping spree, traveling in a glamorous ship. The point is, they're putting energy into the doll. So that's what you need to do. When you do decide to get a doll, or if you, more than likely, I would suggest you craft it, you should name the doll. It is your tool. Even if it's you, this is you. You have a nickname for yourself. Maybe your nickname is Buddy, or whatever nickname, you have for yourself. That doll is an extension of you. But I will tell anyone, when crafting love spells, I know the power of a voodoo doll, and it's very, very powerful. So that's why I would say never craft it for a specific person. Craft it to grab and gather and get someone to come into your life. Not any specific someone, but just the right someone to come into your life and into your energy. Okay? Because a voodoo doll, if you craft it for a specific person, you blow the spirit in, and this person, you want that person, you're stuck with them. You're stuck with them. It's not like you can just throw the away and dog and say, okay, well, that didn't work. You're stuck with them. And that energy work is real. That's why I say, don't do it. And then I've heard people say things like, well, we know we're going to be together forever, so we did the doll. Uh, yeah, not a good idea. Please don't do that. Okay? Not smart. Because here's the thing, you're taking away a free will. And even though you may be the most loving, caring, sweetest person in the world, and I've no doubt you are, that does not mean that that person wants to be with you. And if you take away that free will and make them be with you, you may be the best, loving, greatest partner to them, but they will be miserable because their heart's not with you. You understand? And they might even cheat on you. And you might then say, well, I'm going to cast so that they don't cheat on you. I'm going to cast so that they're only faithful to me. If you have to cast that much magic to make a person stay with you, clearly they're not meant to be with you. And that's something you ought to, keep in mind. Okay? Now, when casting for healing, I would strongly suggest, if the person is ill, if you can, ask their permission before you start doing healing work on them. If they're really in no way, shape, or ability to tell you, yes, please, do this, I would not do it with the doll. I would do it with candles. Okay, because like I said, a doll represents that physical person. Unless it's you yourself doing a healing spell on you yourself, for another individual, it would be suggestible that you use candle magic, which means a blue candle for them. That would be better, because when dealing with another individual human being, you're taking a lot of responsibility in your hand. Okay, I want to make that very clear for you. You're taking a lot of responsibilities into your hand. And unless you know everything that's going on, and I do mean everything, it's not wise to do that kind of spell on someone. Now, if it's your child, I can understand that. Or your husband, I can understand that. But anyone who's not that intimate to you, I would take that with a very careful grain of salt. But a blue candle and a lot of love and light and energy work will work for them. And that's fine. Now, I did say something about hexing, didn't I? Okay. No, it's not soda pop. Carbonated water. Earthy wise woman, don't drink soda. So let me go back to the hexing. Some time ago, someone sabotaged my car. Now, they did not sabotage the car because they wanted to hurt me. They sabotaged the car because what they saw was, oh, she's a woman and she don't know nothing about cars, and I can get so much money out of her if I say this is wrong with it and that is wrong with it. So they basically tightened up some of the brakes on my back brakes. They ruined my back brakes, and I had just had them repaired by someone else. Anyway, they literally cost me well over $1,500 to clean up what they had messed up intentionally in order to get money out of me. So they ended up getting out of me well over $730 more, actually. And that's the money I gave them, plus an additional 700 and some $50 to repair what they had already messed up. So it was double. Anyway, when I took it to the other mechanic to repair, the first thing he said, and I put it on video, was, I don't know who fixed your car, lady, but they did more damage to it than ever before. He goes, it's a good thing that your back brakes were under some form of a warranty. Otherwise, you would be paying $1,200 for the back brakes alone. And understand, I had just had them repaired. So I was furious. So, in my anger, I intentionally made sure I was angry when I did it. I made a hexing doll and I sewed that person's name on it. I put, all kinds of hexing things on it. I stuffed it with chili peppers. Now, when I use chili peppers, I use, I don't like the fact that it's got this tag on it, but I'm going to show you Reapers. Now, when I'm stuffing a hexing dolls, the reason I would use a Reaper is because there is no hotter pepper on the market. This is one of the hottest peppers there is. In fact, I don't even think there is one that is hotter on the scale, because there is a scale to test how hot a pepper is. This tests highest. This pepper is so hot that I would handle this pepper with gloves because the sweat from my hands can actually penetrate and burn my fingers. That's how hot the pepper is. And when making a hexing doll, you do have to stuff it with peppers. So that's what I choose. I also use hexing powder, but I make that separately, and that's a different story. But that would be black pepper. But uh, this is hotter. So anyway, I stuffed it with peppers, and then I wrote him a note and mailed the doll and stuffed, and I did stick black needles in it. Was careful not to retouch the black needles after I stuck them in the doll. That was intentional, because the last thing I wanted was to be hexed myself. So I sent the doll to him with a note explaining to him what he had done and what he would have to do to make it right to lift the hex. Now, I told him to lift the hex, he had to pay me back the money that I had spent to repair the doll, no more and no less. Then I told him what he needed to do to the doll in order to completely lift the hex. First, he had to pay me my money, and after he paid me my money, he could burn the doll, and the hex would be lifted. But if he did anything to that doll without paying me, that hex would be on him for the rest of his life. And some people would say, my God, that's so harsh. That's horrible. So is almost killing a person. And the reason I say almost killing a person is my back brakes, he ruined them so badly that if I had done a sudden stop, I could have flipped my car and killed myself. Or worse, my grandchildren or my daughter who was using the car at the time. And that to me is a no-no. You don't harm me or my family. And so that's why thus is so. And also, for him to freely do such a thing, it meant that he has done this before. So that means this person has harmed and hurt others doing that same practice because he felt no remorse. Now, did I expect him to pay me back the money? No, I really didn't. Because the character of the person, he was kind of, shady. But do I think he'll never forget it? Yeah, every time something happens, or and when the karma comes to hit him hard, yeah. Can he correct it at any time? Yes. Hopefully he will. But once I've made a doll like that and I send it off, and I'll tell this to you guys, please release it. And what I mean by that is I don't give that a second thought anymore. The last time I mentioned it was when I made the doll. I mention it now to tell you a story. And it is I hate the word story because it makes it sound like a lie, to tell you what happened. So that's what happened and that's what I did. Please, I stress this to all of you. When you can not hex a person and basically sit down and talk to them, do. Now, I'm going to tell you straight up. Before I did put the hex on him, I did talk to him. I did tell him what he did. He basically told me to, excuse my language, fuck off. Oh, really? Okay, fine. This is what we're going to do then. So, another thing I'm going to tell you is you can buy dolls. It's best to make a doll yourself. Now, a lot of people would say, well, what do we, I would suggest you make it out of cotton, natural materials, wool, but there's also another way to consider doll making, and that would be out of something that means something to you, like a favorite blouse that you had that you felt very pleasant in, or something of that belonged to your children. You can make something for them out of that. Okay, case in point. Right now, I am currently making a spirit doll for my little granddaughter. She's 3 years old. Now, you see this sheet? Why this sheet is so important was because it came from a blanket that I had sewed for her when she was first born. So I'm remaking it into a doll for her because she loved that blanket so much. And the part that you see cut out was the best part that was left. Believe me. Wow, did she do some hurt on that blanket? But I'm going to make the doll for her. Now, this doll will be filled with love and light and positive energy. Um, Cotton and, believe it or not, candy. I'm going to fill it with rose petals and daisies and things like that. Why? So that when she sleeps, she has beautiful energy, beautiful love, beautiful light. So you see, yes, you can do that because a teddy bear is nothing more than really an oversized spirit doll for children. That's why teddy bears can go into dreams and conquer and protect your children in their sleep because of that. Now, there will be bells on this one to when she jiggles it, it'll ring in order to frighten the evil spirits. And that's also part of traditions. So, initially, I do want to say this, so because I'm rambling, I realize that, but I need you to understand. Initially, voodoo, when it initially came from Africa, was a very love based, love pure, love, kumbaya religion. I mean, we knew there was dark energy, but it was nothing that we really completely tapped upon as much. The problem is when a person or a culture is enslaved and brought, taken away from their culture and forced to forget, a religion can take on a darker energy, a more malevolent energy, not 24/7, but there'll be aspects of it. So when African Americans were taken into slavery, the dolls took on a much more darker um, meaning, not dark as in evil, but dark as in more like protection or hexing, like you harm me, I'll harm you. It took on that energy mainly because we were in a situation of enslavement. Even in Wicca, in Europe, in more European settings, there were wars and there were, people being captured, and it took on a much more malevolent energy because, I mean, let's face it, your family's being, captured, trying to be burned at the stake. This stuff is bad. Yeah, you're going to have to get more defensive magic in order to protect yourself. So things change. That's why that happens. So notice I still didn't tell you how to make a doll. I can tell you this. No one really, I watched my grandmother, both of them make dolls. I have seen though in a lot of botanicas, they sell dolls. I would strongly suggest that you make your own. I would also suggest that you don't worry about them being fancy. Remember, magic is something that it's not so much fancy, so much as it's workable. Okay, now you may look at these dolls and that I've made and think, oh my goodness, her dolls are so fancy. They didn't start off that way. As I grew as a practitioner, my dolls grew. They changed. You know, I wanted to add more color to my dolls. I like rainbows. I don't particularly, I'm not doing it for the LGB thing. I do it because I know that each hue has an energy. Darker hues draws in certain energy, whereas a lighter hue draws in less energy or different energy. So that's why I like colors like that. I decorate them because each one has a meaning. I know what bells are for. I know what the money signs are for. So if I can put all this on my dolls, I do. Okay? So again, how do you activate a doll? Hold it. First, you put it on your altar. You put it on your altar for, 3 moon cycles, and you ask deity to bless it. You call upon the energy of the full moon to infuse it with energy. You call upon the energy of the waning moon to release any negative energy. You call upon the energy of chaos to stir and just intensify energies in the doll. You might even say to regulate the energies in the doll. And then you can also burn candles. For each, for my spirit dolls, I put them in each quarter: the east, the west, the north, the south. Not in that order. So I'm gonna say it to you in the proper order. First, I placed it in the south. Now, I like the south because that is fire. I wanted to impassionate it, and I burned a red candle next to my doll. Then I placed it in the west with the water. And why did I do that? So that my doll could just have the flow of the energies to come with it. Because water is flowing, it's creative, it's a lot of beautiful things. And I burned a blue candle next to it. I placed it then into the north so that my energy would be grounded with my doll. So, and I burned a green candle next to it. Then lastly, I placed the energy into the energy of the west yellow candle so that it would be communicative and open to the energy of the universe. Now, that is something I chose to do. You can simply just talk to your doll and explain to your doll, you know, who you are, what you are, and play with your doll. Give it offerings. When my doll has worked for me, I always leave an offering and thank my doll, which would be an offering also to my ancestors who worked through my doll. I would leave it red wine, depending, white wine, usually apple juice, candy, cakes, sometimes chili, depending on what the energies and magics I've had to work with. I leave it a supper. I thank deity for this as well. What I'm trying to say is this: there is no wrong or right way, but always be respectful of your doll. Number one, don't let anybody touch your doll. Number two, the only person who really should be seeing and looking at your doll is you. Notice, I showed you dolls. I never showed you my doll, nor will I ever do that. That is my private doll, and no one else should be touching it. Do not be dragging your doll out to do the spooky thing. Say, ooh, I've got a voodoo doll. Ooh, don't do that. That's so stupid. It's ignorant. And by the way, there is a code that most practitioners should go through, which is the code of silence. The code of silence. Privacy. That's yours. That's your doll, not nobody else's, all right? Because even you notice that children are very like that with their teddy bears. They don't like other people touching their teddy bears. The only person they usually let touch their teddy bears is mommy and daddy. Okay? They don't let everybody touch their bears. They're very sensitive about that, as you should be with your doll. Okay? And have respect. Okay. Now, if you should decide to make an ancestry doll, if you possibly can, if you have old clothing from an ancestor, say your grandmother, your parent, or some family member who has crossed over, that would be something you might want to make into an ancestral doll. And that doll you can use for separate reasons. I have an ancestral doll made from the cloak of my paternal grandmother, and the other part of it was made from the cord of my maternal grandmother. I was able to mix both because it was her first cord, and she had several. And the other one, anyway, that's a different story. I mixed certain patterns and clothing from my grandmother's, and and that doll is extremely powerful. And it's one of the dolls that I personally, people say storing. I store that particular doll in a pure 100% wool black zip up satchel that I place in a sacred place near my altar. And I bring it out usually during Samhain to celebrate, and Beltane. See, you notice yeah, Samhain and Beltane. So that would be October 31st and May 1st. To in honor of my ancestors. And that doll represents my grandmothers, and I will put their favorite drinks in front of her and their favorite foods and play their favorite music and such as that. So I have one grandmother, my paternal grandmother, who loved Billie Holiday, loved the music of Billie Holiday. My other grandmother loved Ella Fitzgerald and Dana Washington. A lot of blues in my family. Okay, and uh, the other one who I think was cute, she really liked Deep Purple, so I played some Deep Purple. But the point is, I bring in the energy of my ancestors when I bring out that doll, and then I'll ask favors of it, and that's only on certain days. So I have lingered on long enough, so I'm going to end this video now and strongly suggest that you all please buy books. Don't always rely on the internet. And I'm on the internet saying this to you. Buy the books, okay? Get familiar with some really good authors. And on that note, I will end this with a hearty good night and a blessed be.